Welcome to the CEO Insider Podcast, powered by YTexas. My name is Sandy McIlree, along with Ed Curtis. And if you have spent any time at all in Dallas, Texas, you have a pretty good chance over the years you've heard the name of our guest. Ed, tell everyone who we'll be chatting with today. I'm excited to talk to him.
Yes, Mr. Larry North, infamous Larry North in Dallas, Texas. We have several things in common. One, we're both from New York, right, Larry?
Yes, sir. Long Island in
That's
particular.
right. And several months ago, I interviewed Larry for the book that I wrote called YTexas, and it was chapter 16. And he told some amazing stories about his experience relocating to Dallas back years ago when none of us had any money in our pockets, and his career obviously took him to where he is today. And I thought it was very timely to have Larry on as we're kind of going through these changes with COVID and his industry and the health industry and then health in general, just being a topic that I'd love to get his perspective on. So Larry, appreciate you having you on.
It's my pleasure. I'm just thrilled. I thank you for even considering interviewing me for the book. I was honored to do that, and certainly happy to do this. This is like sort of, you know, in school you had science, history, and recess. For me, this is like recess. This is easy for me.
Right.
Hey, Larry, for those that may not know, what year was it that you moved to Texas, and what was the thought? Was it just a new start or new business, or what was the idea?
Not at all. I mean, if you just YouTube Irv North, you're going to see 5.5 minutes of pretty much a little bit of my upbringing and life story to some extent. My father was a degenerate, compulsive gambler, in and out of prison, and he grew up in Brooklyn, 7th grade education. He was just part of that element, that street element, running numbers as a teenager, working for bookmakers as an older teenager, and just getting into that world. And it was what it was. But unfortunately, he was also highly abusive to my mom. And my mom is just like the sweetest, kindest, most gentle, Jewish mother. Beverly's her name, and she's still alive in great health, 86 years old. But at the time, it was late 70s, and my mom was just at the end of her rope, and she had tried to sort of flee herself from him in the past unsuccessfully. But I was now 15, old enough to help out. I had twin brothers, 5, and we had a very narrow window to leave New York while my dad was in a halfway house, and we took that opportunity. We actually went to Vegas because my dad was banned from Vegas. And at that time, he wasn't showing up. I won't get into the details of that, but he wasn't going to, even if he knew we were there, he wouldn't show up. But after a couple days there, a job fell through for my mom, and she just said, you know what, I'm not feeling it here. So we backtracked to head to Houston and just picked Texas. There was no legal gambling at the time, and just sort of a fresh new start for our lives. And we had no money, nothing, zero. And my mom knew not to reach out to other family and friends that knew my dad, because he would break their will down and give us up. So we didn't let it. No one knew where we were. No one, zero, just us. And our car broke down in Dallas, and we've never left. In fact, it broke down in Richardson at Spring Valley
Road.
And my mom still lives in Richardson, and I live I live in far north Dallas, so I still like in the same hood, actually.
Wow. Amazing story.
Yeah. And when we were talking about this, I remember I moved here to Dallas in 1993. I worked at a restaurant called 80, and one of the items on the menu was the Larry North plate.
Larry North plate. And let me tell you, if you know the owner, Shannon Wynn, who I know very well, he ain't putting anybody's name on his menus, but he kept mine on because at lunch, 25% of the entrees were Larry North plates. But let me tell you though, that was guerrilla marketing. So I went to any restaurant that would have my name and let me put a better for you menu item on their list. I had almost 80 restaurants in the 80s that had my name on the restaurants. No one knew who I was, but eventually, they're looking at the menu like, wow, who the hell is this guy? But you know what? Looks like a healthy meal. So I was ahead of my time, I think.
Where does the healthy lifestyle come from, Larry? Was it something in your life, or was it the way that you grew up, or a decision made?
I'm a total product of my upbringing. My mother was a founding member of Overeaters Anonymous. She struggled with her weight her entire life. Even at 86, and she looks fine, she'll still say, "I need to lose 5 pounds." But she was she was obese as a child. She was referred to as Fat Bevy, and it really played an emotional toll on her, and even to me to some extent, to see how people would be really just say really unkind things when we were out in public, if we were eating or whatever. And it was very emotional subject for my mom. And she tried everything to do to lose the weight back then, but just was using the wrong technology. And then my dad, I've never to this day witnessed a more unhealthier human being, bleeding ulcers, migraine headaches, took barbiturates, you name a pill, he took it, and just always under massive stress, and ate poorly, chains. He talked out of the side of his mouth, even when he didn't have a cigarette in his mouth, because he was so used to having a cigarette in his mouth. So I sort of had two examples, and I just wasn't going to live that way. And fortunately, I haven't.
Well, Sandy, I could tell you too, when what really impressed me is that, and Larry, talk about this, right before your dad was passing or he was sick, you actually saw him, right?
Well, here's what happened. I mean, years go by, and, he never really wrapped his arms around my career, so I thought. And so he ended up going back to Vegas out of a stint in prison, ironically, because from the 70s to the 90s, Vegas was the fastest growing city in America for a while. So he went back there, and he drove a cab, which was the only legitimate job he had his whole life. And he liked doing it. And we were estranged, but, we kept in touch a little bit. But then the cancer hit him. And I told my brothers, I said, "Listen, man, we got a choice. You let him die, and we'll have to deal with our own issues regarding that, or we could do something and go get him, bring him back." And we chose that, and it wasn't easy. The doctor in Vegas said he'd live maybe 30 to 45 days. He lived 12 months. Wow. And it wasn't an easy 12 months, but it was a chance to create some closure and do what we needed to do. And I'll tell you a quick story that I don't think I shared with you. I have a friend of mine that was married to a woman named Tyler. Tyler was a local model for Kim Dawson, and I knew her from my Confetti nightclub days where I used to hang out. So we had a long history together. And one day, just randomly, way after my father died, she came up to me. She said, I went to Vegas, and with a bunch of girls. We were on a bachelorette party, and we just crammed all 5 of us into a cab. All of a sudden, the guy turns around and goes, "Hey, you're from Dallas. I wonder if you know my kid, Larry North." And Taylor goes, "Actually, I'm really good friends with Larry. I know him very well." And he had a scrapbook of all my clippings. And I'm going to get emotional because I thought he just either didn't look at him or dumped him. And he handed the scrapbook and said, "That's my kid." So all these years, I thought he sort of didn't get it, but yet deep in his heart, I think he did.
Yeah.
So yeah. And that's, and Tyler told that story, and it was just sort of, it always touched me. I always remembered it. So I did have a closure with Irv. That was his name, Irv, Big Irv. And and that was in 93. So he's been deceased for quite a long time.
Wow. Yeah.
Do you, let's talk about business. I mean, things are really weird right now in every business. And you seem like
So I'm very dialed into the health club. So I'll name a few names. So Mark Mastroff may not mean anything to you, but there's no one in my industry that doesn't know who Mark is. I sold him clubs in the 90s. He started 24-Hour Fitness, sold it, made a lot of money. He's very iconic to our industry. Owned Crunch Fitness, UFC gyms, all the NFL clubs. My best friend, Johnny, is CEO of the NFL clubs. And Mark, along with Brahm, who started Lifetime Fitness, Harvey, who's the CEO of Equinox, these guys get on their own Zoom call every week to discuss, hey, what's going on in the industry? I also work for a private equity firm, and we had a small investment in 24-Hour Fitness with the current owners. Gold's Gym is Dallas-based. I know that's TRT Holdings. I know my industry very well, and I know people I've been in it. You have to understand, guys, I'm going to be 60. My first gym I ever worked at was Doug's Gym downtown at age 16. I took a bus from Richardson to downtown, which was quite a schlep back then. So our industry isn't going to get bailed out. ever. It's not going to get bailed out. 24-Hour Fitness yesterday just announced their filing, closed 130 clubs. There's going to be 100 more. They may not ever open any of them. They didn't even have money to file the bankruptcy from what I heard. Gold's Gym filed Chapter 11. LA Fitness has been quiet, but expect them to announce closing of 250 locations. You're talking about a lot of real estate, a lot of jobs, an industry in a death spiral. Then you get into the boutique concepts, like the darling of the industry has been Orange Theory. Well, let me tell you, that concept thrives by being overbooked in a class, not having limited participation. I don't see how maybe they'll endure it, but for now, I would not want to own an Orange Theory. Yet 4 months ago, I wish I owned all of them. And then you get into the discount club. So Planet Fitness, Fitness Connection, Anytime Fitness, a lot of franchise models as well as big box. Now Planet Fitness seems to be good. Their stock seems to be stable. And on paper, they're probably still worth $4 to $5 billion, but there's going to be a land grab. So there's people going to, what are you going to do? I just spoke to a friend of mine who's a really good friend. He's a real estate guy in Vegas, and he houses, one of his tenants is 24-Hour Fitness. And he was surprised that I knew that they had 6,000 members. I knew the club was, I was just very easy to get that information. But I said, be prepared. You may not have a tenant for quite a while. So the larger, I want you guys to think about this. Let's say an LA Fitness, it's hard to repurpose a health club.
Right.
You got the way the plumbing is, the way it costs you. I think if you take a 35,000 square foot health club, it might cost you, $2-3 million just to repurpose it in construction fees. And then good luck. And I don't know any company that's looking for 30,000 square foot spaces, but guys like Mark Mastroff, guys like Brum, last man standing, are going to be opportunistic. In my case personally, I have a beautiful club in Westlake, and it is, the employees are mine, but it's a managed club, and we do it really well. It's exceptional. And we've done well from the day we took it over 12 years ago. And then I have a club at Preston Center. And when I signed that lease 3 years ago, I underestimated the amount of competition. It's just grown. It's just, pre-coronavirus, the fitness industry was on fire, exploding. Now, what's interesting for me, and we were doing okay. We weren't thriving like I was accustomed to in this business, but Gold's Gym closes, the Preston Center location, 3 blocks away from me. And I was able to contact the CEO, and all their members are now my members, except for the ones that chose not to be. So I would say we probably boarded about 1,000 new members. But let's talk about some states. Let's talk about New York, California, and Illinois. They're killing the industry. Like you look at 24-Hour Fitness, they had over 100 clubs in California. They haven't even opened yet. They haven't even opened 3 months. You can survive 30 days in probably any business and not open. 60 days, there's going to be some drop-offs, some casualties. 90 days, I don't care what business you're in, good luck. A PPP, that only does PPP helps your employees. It's more of a conscious capital opportunity. I got the PPP. I was delighted. I didn't fire or furlough one person, and I kept people employed at a time where they might have been struggling. People that choose my industry as an occupation, many have degrees, some don't, but they don't make a lot of money. They just don't. They do it because they love the industry. But I'm telling you, we have yet to see the final death blow until they start opening up gyms in those cities. And some are even announcing that they may never open. And then they list it that gyms aren't a safe place to be, but yet you could be in a supermarket, you could be in a Home Depot with the same amount of people. I just don't get it.
Well, go ahead, Ed. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. No, I was going to say, so the business model, obviously you pay your 10, your 20, your 50, $100 a month, and you're a member. There's some local gyms around here that are basically calling and saying, we're going to be opening, we'll put your membership on ice, or some people are just rolling it saying, listen, we understand it's not a lot of money. How is that playing into the model? Maybe even with you personally.
Where do you live?
Austin.
Oh, you're in Austin. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Cowboy Fit just took a brand spanking new 24-Hour Fitness. you know, first thing, I mean, most everybody, I mean, the bigger companies had a little bit harder time of setting up the freeze because they have to do it in each state, and there's a lot of members, but most froze them, automatic freeze. And then as they reopen, some people were just, if you're a workout aficionado, let's just say you work out and you're used to going to a gym, I'm sorry. Your inspiration to get those dumbbells at home and a stationary bike, that lasts about 48 hours. And then you realize, oh man, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. Working out and doing push-ups at the park are nothing like my regular workout. And some people will do it just because they need to keep busy, but most don't. And then you've got people that are gym goers, but aren't actually avid gym goers. A lot of people wanted to get back in the gym. A lot of people just needed to get out of the house and work their body. Plus, so I've always felt like when I first started on radio, I remember I got a true awakening when I said, hey, everybody, this is Larry North. You're listening to The Weekend Workout. Give me a call, 214-787-1570, and I'm going to get you healthy.
No one called.
Nobody called.
Nobody.
Then I pivoted after the break. I said, hey, everyone, this is Larry North. Would you like to lose an inch or two around your waist? Would you like to lose unwanted body fat? Would you like to look good in your swimsuit? And all of a sudden the phone lines light up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's fast forward 34 years. Health is important to people. It wasn't seemed to be on the forefront back then, but people understand the importance of health. But here's what gets their attention. Immune boost, biohack, doing things to your body via supplementation, nutrition, exercise, hormonal optimization that are going to give your body a little bit of a force field to fight against infectious diseases and things of that nature. So some people understand the value of it and realize that it is important, but I think the industry is going to take a long time. You know, you had concepts like core yoga, great concept, or Soul Cycle, which, I mean, they were just a great profit. I don't know if they're going to be able to survive. I think that there's going to be additional casualties depending how long this goes. And if there's ever another lockdown, it's going to be just really, 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 really bad.
Larry, I think I know the answer to this based on what you've just told us, but do you know, are the sales of things like Peloton, NordicTrack, things like that, are they just through the roof right now?
Through the roof, through the roof. And then, like, I'll give you, in the local market, you know, I'm in North Texas, as you are too. Busybody and Fitness HQ. Busybody sponsored my TV show and my radio show 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. They're owned by a wonderful family. They're South Africans. I've known them forever. So I run in, I'm at Delhi News of all places. We've got our mask on, and I run into Karen Granger, the owner, who's just a sweetheart. We like wanted to give each other a hug. We adore each other so much. I'm going to guess. She didn't tell me, but I'm going to guess. They probably do about 12 million annually in revenue between their 12 locations. That sounds about right, about $1 million a store. When the coronavirus hit, in a 6-week period, they did 4 million in sales, just in this local market. So yeah, in answer to your question, yes. And now there's also knockoffs. People are rushing into the space. So you're going to have weight equipment machines that are going to be very similar with a video trainer working you out. You're going to see the treadmill version of it. And you'll see other Peloton-ish kind of companies that'll come out, and it serves a purpose. Yeah. But there's still, as a guy that still has those guns, I still need weights. I still have to lift weights. I still need to be in the gym. So I'll tell you a secret. So I was the only one that had a key to my Dallas gym, and it was very surreal. I'd go in there. I'd be the only one. I cranked up my 80s disco music as loud as I could tolerate it. And it was just really crazy. And I ended up getting probably in the best shape I've been in 25 years because I was prepping my own food, eating at home, not eating out, working out literally 2 hours a day, which I rarely ever do, but I did then because I needed to fill up the time. So, yeah.
You know what I saw is coming back, Larry? I laughed. Do you remember ankle weights?
Oh, yeah.
Remember those stupid things? They're selling like crazy right now.
And they're not good on the knees. To tell you the truth. Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, I don't know if you heard about this. So you've heard of the popular CrossFit, right? And it's a bit cultish and it's pretty popular.
Careful, I don't know all the details, but you say those words, you might get sued.
But yeah. Well, yeah. But let me say this. the owner and founder and CEO is no longer the CEO. They had him step down because of the political statements he made recently. Yeah. And so, so CrossFit may be on the selling block as well.
All right. So for someone like me, and you and I have talked about this through social media, what is it going to look like when we go back? Because I want to go back to the gym when I'm allowed to go back to the gym. What is it going to look like?
Wait, in Austin, you're not allowed to go back?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, when mainstream.
In general.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you. So in my case, I was very well prepared. So like I said to some people that talked to me and called me up and interviewed me, I was doing pre-coronavirus modalities before I've always limited my membership. I've always been immaculately clean. I've always been mindful and conscientious of my environment. But I took it to a whole new level. And I think I don't really love the new normal, but I think that is going to be the new normal. Those days of someone saying, I work out at that gym, it's a pigsty, but I still go there. If you don't clean your club, you're not going to get members. You'll go out of business. So you have to do that. And a lot of clubs, I used to say, what seems like common sense, like friendliness, service, cleanliness, isn't always that common in this industry for some reason. A lot of people don't brag about their gyms. Mm-hmm. And so I've always felt like people were proud to be members at my club. And there's certain clubs that certainly raise the bar. So what you have is you have that $10 a month discount club, which that model has been proven financially successful. I mean, did you know that the largest franchisee of Planet Fitness did pre-coronavirus $100 million in EBITDA? They were worth $1 billion, and they were the franchisee. So we know that model works. I know the guys that started Fitness Connection, which is a little bit different model. And in answer to your question, it's going to be fine. You're not, and here's why. Because you're not going to get people just coming in droves at the same time. People are just going to trickle in. They want to see. Your older clients are just saying, I think I'm going to wait till after the 4th of July. The younger ones feel bulletproof. They're already coming into the gym, and classes are still limited participation. Most gyms have spaced out equipment. Most gyms have gotten an extra amount of supplies, but no longer wearing the gloves. And some employees wear the mask, some don't. Most people in the gym don't. It's not easy, like doing heavy squats with a mask on. But I think it's going to be nice. I think people are going to be, I come from the school of thought that as a result of this crazy pandemic, I think people in general are going to be kinder, a little nicer.
Oh, yeah.
A little more respectful.
For sure.
Remember the days of being the gym being a pickup joint. Those gyms aren't going to be around. That ain't happening. There's men and guys that are married don't have to worry about their wives in the gym. Boyfriends don't have to worry about the girls. Vice versa. I think people are keeping their distance.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Larry, it's always good catching up with you, man. You've got quite a story.
Well, thank you. Just my pleasure to participate with you guys anytime. And as you know, I know a lot of people. So if there's some segments of business and people you want to get on, I'm happy to help out.
Yeah, we just want a variety of stories and feedback from people that are sitting out on the front lines. But before we go, you two know some similar people. I want to hear a good story before we go from somebody.
What story would you like?
I don't know.
The person we have in common is Dallas radio legend Kid Craddock, who passed away a few years back. And I saw Larry. You spoke at a conference once that I was at that Kid put on.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you were. That's over 20 years ago. That.
It was over 20 years ago. And you spoke at that conference, and I was there, and I was like, man, I need to get to know that Larry North guy. He's got a lot going on. And then, of course, I never did.
But we had the mutual friend of Kid Craddock, who certainly was national, but certainly in the local market. Kid was a celebrity. He was really a one of a kind. I've never met anyone else like Kid, and he was different too. I mean, he definitely was a different kind of character, a mold of only him. But I'll tell you a quick story that really sort of tells a little bit about who he is. So we used to play in an ongoing poker game. There's a local guy, Dale Hansen, who here locally, sports announcer. It was a fun group of guys. We all sort of were at the same golf club. And one day after poker, Kid would have a driver occasionally, because if he had a couple drinks, he wasn't going to drive, and he'd have the driver pay. And we're waiting outside. I said, we're just talking. And he says, Larry, I'm not well. I'm sick. I've got cancer. And I said, wow, I had no idea. He goes, I prefer you don't tell that to many people. I'm sure I'm going to lick it. And that was like 8 months before he passed away. But he lived hard. He played hard. And I think he certainly did a lot of good things while he was on this earth. And so he was definitely quite a introspective human being.
His kids charity is amazing, that he sends terminally ill kids to.
And his radio show carried on its legacy.
Yeah, sure did.
Him, a lot of people didn't think that would happen, but it just goes to show you how good he was, that he created a show that could go and be successful without him.
I had a drink with Tom Joyner a few months ago, and we were talking about Kid, and he goes, the man's dead and he's still number one. I can't compete with that anymore.
Wow. That's a great way of looking at it. That is an interesting, yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. In my business, Larry, I've been in radio for 30 years, and there's different, there's coaching trees in the NFL, like they come from the Bill Parcells coaching tree or the Bill Belichick tree. In radio, it's kind of the same. In fact, there's certain guys he comes from the Howard Stern tree.
Sure. Yeah.
I come from the Kid Craddock tree. Taught me a lot.
Do I have time to share how I got into radio with you guys? It's quick. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version if I have time. So I used to be a fan of talk radio. In the local market, we had guys like Norm Hitzkiss and Kevin McCarthy, Bob Ray Sanders. He was left. David Gold was right. And I loved it. I was educational, and I just used to listen to him. So I thought, you know what, I could do that. I must have been 24, 25. I find out the address to the station. Remember, we didn't have GPS back then. I find out the address, and I go up to the station. Receptionist says, can I help you? I said, yeah, I need to talk to the guy that's in charge. I didn't know what a program director was. And they said, what for? I said, I have an idea for a show. Dan Bennett was the guy that was the program director. And lo and behold, they said, have a seat. They let me see him. He was sort of low-level guy at that time at the station. And I'm in his office, and he had a very deep voice. He said, what can I do for you? I said, hey, I have an idea for a show. He goes, I don't have a lot of time here. I said, listen, I know I can do it. I'm a local trainer, one of the first trainers in the city. I'm very successful at what I do. I want to do a radio show on fitness. He goes, what are you going to do? Exercise them over the radio? I go, no, I'm going to inspire them. I'm going to tell them how to eat right, tell them what types of exercise. He looks at me. He says, that was my idea. I called Dr. Ken Cooper a week ago, and he turned me down.
The Cooper
number down. Then I become a guest on the political David Gold show, just a guest on a live remote. 300 people are out there. That was a very popular station back then. And I must have done a good job, because the girl I was dating at the time had a big old bottle of Dom Perignon and roses at my apartment when I got back. And that was my first taste of radio. Yeah. And then nothing happened. 2 weeks later, I get a call on my recorded device. You know how you used to see you have 5 messages. One of them's Dan Bennett, says, Larry North, I've got good news and not as good a news. He goes, the weekend workout with Larry North is going to debut on Sundays. The not so good news is it's at 7 a.m. in the morning. and so he, and I needed coaching. As you know, you're doing, back then weekends actually had a purpose, but before long I was doing Saturdays and Sundays from 10 to 12. He used to listen on his way to Oklahoma on Sunday mornings. He'd hear me talk about, they didn't have a great signal back then. It was on 1190. And he used to hear me say chicken breasts and treadmill and egg whites. And then it cut in with a religious station saying amen. And so, but he gave me my first training. And let me tell you, what spawned from that radio show were changing people's lives, testimonials that the industry had never seen before, a global infomercial called The Great North American Slim Down, 3 best-selling books, a restaurant, gyms in South Beach, Miami, Houston, Fort Worth, and Dallas, and South Lake and Rockwell. So that radio show was the catalyst to really my career. And as you know, if you're in radio, it's a little bit addicting. And now everybody's in radio. If you have a phone, or you can do podcasts, which is great, by the way, because you can find, ultimately, if someone has a good message, you're going to find it. And you know what they always told us? If you're on radio, no matter what the signal is, somebody's listening.
That's true. I think that's a great point to wrap up with the one and only Larry North. I think I'm in Dallas quite a bit. I've got an affiliate there. And so maybe I'll pop in and say hi.
I would love that. Thank you for allowing me to share my stories, and you guys have a beautiful day, okay?
Thanks, Larry.
All right. Thanks again, man. Really appreciate it.